Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Tomatoito Boxing Show. Just wanted to follow up with you guys and do a quick preview episode of the Tszyu fight that's taking place later tonight against Bakhram Murtazaliev, who became the IBF champ at 154 pounds. That division is stacked right now. And if we were to organize this division in the way that talent is playing now, Tszyu definitely one of the top players in that division. Sebastian Fundora, the unified champ, with his victory over Tszyu. And other than that, you got Terence Crawford with his recent victory over Madrimov. You got Errol Spence, who we don't know if he's actually going to campaign at 154 or not. It looks like he's in negotiations to fight Sebastian Fundora in January. And that division is stacked right now. Sander Saya's the new talent. Tszyu, a Cuban fighter, 8-0. He's going to be on the undercard of Tszyu and Murtazaliev. He's on a fast track to become a star. Great young fighter, 8-0 fighter in Tszyu. Sander Saya's another big player. Virgil Ortiz, another big player who's now come up to the ranks and had a sensational victory over Sergey Boachuk. Then you got Boachuk, you got Korbanov, you got Madrimov. A lot of top dogs, and then you got your supporting cast at 154 of players that could definitely derail anybody's plans and become a spoiler, and that are knocking on the door of contendership themselves. Jesus Mono Ramos out of Arizona. You got Carlos Ocampo, Brian Mendoza, Brian Castaño returning to boxing fairly soon. Jermel Charlo, who's reportedly in training, the former undisputed champ of this division, and who has a feud with Terence Crawford. That would be an intriguing fight if we were to get that one. So this fight has a lot of meaning behind it because Tszyu was supposed to fight, if you recall, against Keith Thurman earlier this year. Ended up fighting Sebastian Fundora. The WBC threw their title in the mix, and Fundora became the undisputed or the unified champ for that division. Crawford has a portion of the WBA title with his victory over Madrimov, and this is the IBF title being disputed here. Very intriguing fight, and so what we want to talk about today is to try to break this fight down a little bit. Murtazaliev, just because he's a little bit or lesser known fighter, doesn't necessarily mean that he's not a good fighter. He's had some really good opposition in the past, and he possesses a lot of tools. He's a very strong, rugged, tough, grind-out type fighter that has good power behind him, and that's gonna make it tough. That's gonna make it a tough fight for Tszyu, in my opinion. Let me try to get this breakdown here as I'm talking to you guys. Let's try to get this up here because he just won the IBF title, and a lot of people weren't aware of Murtazaliev or that the IBF title was in play or who the champion was. A lot of people still thought that it was vacant. So Bakhram, 22-0, 16 knockouts, Russian fighter who resides in Oxnard, California, and ended up fighting for the vacant title against a tough fighter himself in Jack Kolke, 33-4 fighter. That fight ended up taking place in April of this year, and Bakhram became the champion with a KO victory over Jack Kolke, stopping him in the 11th round. A lot of criticism Bakhram took on that fight, that he struggled with his weight leading into the fight, and that the fight complicated itself. A lot to take from that fight. And it's a fight that you definitely want to watch and lead up to this Tszyu fight, because you could definitely find a lot of openings, a lot of weaknesses that Tszyu may very well expose. In my opinion, not just because Tszyu is the favorite fighter or because he's the more known fighter, the more popular fighter. In my opinion, I believe Tszyu possesses more tools to be able to pull this victory off over Bakhram. Bakhram is a come-forward fighter who's going to rely on his strength and who looks for the knockout. That's what that's what ends up hindering him a little bit, because when you're always looking for the knockout, you're bound to make mistakes and leave yourself open, leave yourself vulnerable to be caught, especially with such an experienced fighter like Tszyu. So again, we're looking we look at Bakhram Murtazaliev, 22-0 with 16 knockouts. His most recent knockout was the one that he landed against Jack Colkay that gave him that title, that earned him that title around his waist. From there, he had a unanimous decision win in an 8-round fight against a good fighter in Roberto Valenzuela Jr., and that was dating back to December of 2022. 2023, he was basically on the mend and on the sidelines and came back to put on a really good performance this go around. Both fighters made weight. This is another key factor that I want to point out. Both fighters made weight yesterday, and today both fighters have already reported to the scales, and both fighters made the rehydration clause of 165. It was set at 165 pounds, just shy of the super middleweight. These guys are fighting at 154 contractually. This is for a 154-pound title, and both fighters made the 165 weight limit rehydration clause this morning. So they already successfully made it. The fight is taking place. Tszyu, in my opinion, a well-rounded, better versed fighter than Bakhram, who's going to be able to mix it up. Good footwork, could switch stances on a whim, and could deliver power from both hands. He's able to mix up his attack a lot more, where Bakhram is more of a come-forward fighter and relies more on power punches more so than jabs. Tszyu likes to loop his punches a little bit. Tszyu likes to hit the tempo a lot. Tszyu likes to hook a lot, and he relies on his jab. If he keeps peppering Bakhram, he's gonna frustrate Bakhram. If he keeps peppering him with that jab, what Tszyu does often is not only does he possess power, a powerful, powerful jab, it's a stiff jab that he lands. Not only does that open windows for him to continue landing additional punches and to be able to mix up his attack, but the jab itself is a damaging jab where he often ends up stopping his opponents in their tracks and disrupts their game plan. And that always plays to Tszyu's favor. He did it to Carlos Campo. He did it to Brian Mendoza, where the jab paid dividends for Tszyu, where he would continue not just create openings for himself, but disrupt their game plan. And if he starts peppering, and he's not afraid to engage either. Tszyu likes to engage and likes to mix it up with his opposition. So if he's able to not just disrupt the game plan of Bakhram, which is what I see happening, and he meets him in the center of the ring, disrupts the game plan, he's going to completely eliminate the weapons that Bakhram brings to the table and start dominating the fight. I don't think it's going to be as easy as we're putting it. I don't think it's as easy as people are making it sound to be, or at least as they're seeing it play out. I think Tszyu's in for a good fight, and he's going to encounter some good resistance and some power on behalf of Bakhram. Bakhram has the title. He's got the pressure on him to retain that title, but Bakhram is a strong fighter that is just looking to just mix it up and get his opponent out of there. He's got good body shots himself. He's got good fast hands himself, but he's more of a one-faceted fighter than Tszyu. Tszyu being a more well-rounded, versed fighter that can adjust during the fight, whereas Bakhram is going to be more robotic, more of a one-sided fighter. It's paid off for him, and it's obviously got him all the way to a title, to a major title, where he's one of the major players in that division. But I don't see Bakhram having that much effect against a Madrimov. I don't see him beating a Boachuk, for that matter. I think he would be basically, if he faced a Virgil Ortiz, I think Virgil Ortiz would find similar success like he did with Boachuk against Bakhram, that style fight. Tszyu, in my opinion, is a level up. And so I'm looking to see if he continues on his stardom and how he bounces back from his loss against Sebastian Fundora as well. That's the intrigue behind this. How much did that loss play a part in the version of Tszyu that we're going to see today? That it has to play a mental part. And what version of Tszyu are we going to see? He seems calm. He seems very cool and collected and easygoing and talking and joking around in the build-up to the fight. But we'll see how it all translates in the ring when he's in there. He's a true professional. He says he's putting it behind him and he's just going forward. And obviously he wants another shot at Sebastian Fundora. Even though it was a bloodfest of a fight and it was a tough and grind out style fight between the two, Tszyu had a lot of success against Sebastian Fundora. And in a rematch, I think Tszyu would end up defeating Sebastian Fundora. He now knows that style and he knows how much success he had against him. He just needs some minor tweaks and he'll be able to potentially defeat Sebastian Fundora, if not stop him. This is, in my opinion, this is going to be a fight similar to maybe the Brian Mendoza Tszyu fight. Brian Mendoza, again, another well-rounded fighter who possesses good power, but I think this fight's going to play out similar, in similar fashion. I see this fight, Tszyu Brian Mendoza fight, I see this Tszyu Bakhram fight playing out in similar ways. Yeah, I mean, out of those fighters, I think Brian Mendoza is the one that complicated the style a bit for Tszyu, but eventually Tszyu found the answers and found the way to be able to swim through those waters and find success and get that decision. I believe Tszyu possesses more tools, like I said earlier, and I believe that Tszyu has more ways to win tonight, either by stoppage, which will, in my opinion, is going to happen in the second half of the fight if there is a stoppage. But if not, he'll cruise to a decision victory over a tough, rugged fighter like Bakhram Murtazaliev. For Bakhram, who's always hunting for that knockout, who's looking to stop and hurt his opponents and inflict pain on his opponents, he's got the body shot is going to be key for Bakhram. The way that he's able to attack the head, he's a bit of a head hunter, but when he mixes his punches, very good, his combinations, that he starts up top and always loops with that right body shot, that's going to be key. If he's able to eliminate the legs and the movement from Tszyu, the whole game is going to change, and Bakhram may very well start finding success against Tszyu. That would be the key for me, if Bakhram's able to eliminate the movement from Tszyu and hurt him to the body earlier. If he's able to hurt him to the body, the fight's going to change completely, because I think Bakhram could definitely match power with power and find success against Tszyu. Other than that, as far as the rest of the card, nothing really of note to pay attention to. Somebody else that or two other fighters that contend in that division is someone who I mentioned earlier, Yoenis Styles. He's on the fast track to stardom, the Cuban fighter, 8-0, and he's going to be fighting a veteran Venezuelan fighter in Johan Gonzalez. Johan Gonzalez, of course, has 3 defeats, one which was earlier in his career, but the 2 main defeats that he has against top opposition in that division came against Kurbanov, and his last fight, as he took part of that undercard with Canelo Munguia, he faced Jesus Ramos. El Mono Ramos managed to stop Johan Gonzalez on that night in May of earlier this year. So he's coming back from that knockout defeat. He did have a fight since May. He fought in August in an 8-round fight against a fighter. It was a tune-up fight, a 3-9 fighter, 3 wins, 9 losses for that fighter named Ivan Herrera, and Johan Gonzalez stopped him in the second round. It was just basically to get his gears grinding again and get back on the win column. But this fight tonight is going to be a complicated one. Johan Gonzalez has a lot of experience. Yoenis Styles has the upside, and his trajectory is skyrocketing. If you haven't heard of this kid, in my opinion, he's the Cuban version of Xander Sayas. He's explosive, he's fast, good footwork, good hands. I think Yoenis Styles is going to have himself a good victory tonight. But if he doesn't, Johan Gonzalez, the experience will pay dividends and derail the plans for this hot prospect in Yoenis Styles. That's the only other fight that I'm keeping an eye on as far as this undercard goes, because it's 2 fighters that campaign in this very same division that are hot players. Xander Sayas, Yoenis Styles, Virgil Ortiz are the hot prospects for me in at 154. Johan Gonzalez, I put him in the same category as Brian Mendoza, as Carlos Campo, as a Brian Castaño, as a Tony Harrison, the true and tried journeyman type road warriors. And then, of course, you got maybe even Erickson Lubin I could throw in there. And then you got the guys that are knocking on the door of title contendership or title contention, or even to be top dogs in this division, like a Madrimov, Boachuk, Jermell Charlo, if he returns, Jesus Ramos, I put him up there. He's got that one defeat that came at the hands of Erickson Lubin, but now he came back with the knockout victory over Johan Gonzalez, and he's right there. He just needs a shot against a top dog, and Jesus Ramos could definitely be a spoiler for a lot of the top fighters that are out there. So this is a very intriguing fight. Tim Tszyu, I'm slightly leaning, not because of favorability and popularity, but because I believe he has more tools in his arsenal than what Bakhram Murtazaliev brings to the table. Nonetheless, Murtazaliev brings a solid record, a lot of power, and the IBF title on his side. And it's up to him to defend it tonight. Very interesting fight taking place out in Orlando. I want to know how you guys see it. Leave me a comment. Let me know. And let's start talking about this fight. The other fight taking place later tonight is going to be at the super middleweight division between William Skol and Vladimir Shishkin, who are disputing for a title for the same organization. They're going to be fighting for the vacant IBF title that the IBF stripped from Canelo Alvarez. So Canelo no longer undisputed at 168. The IBF strips Canelo Alvarez, puts it on the line tonight between William Skol, to be disputed between William Skol and Vladimir Shishkin, two undefeated fighters themselves, and fighting out in Germany. So the IBF organization, very busy tonight with their title being disputed in two different weight divisions, and both fights a very important note, because for those guys, even though they're lesser known, William Skol and Vladimir Shishkin, whoever wins that fight is going to join the ranks of the Diego Pachecos, the Caleb Plants, Edgar Berlanga, Jaime Munguia. Whoever wins that is going to have leverage now, even though they're lesser known. They're going to have the leverage of bringing the title to the table, which is going to be intriguing for any of those guys to get a belt around their waist, to be able to get themselves, especially if it's one of those three, like a Berlanga, Munguia, Caleb Plant, whichever of those guys takes on the winner of this fight, if they're willing to, then that would bring a negotiation aspect on their behalf to get themselves to run it back against Canelo, not just another future big mega payday, but to be able to right their loss that they suffered at the hand of Canelo. Maybe a Diego Pacheco jumps at the opportunity, since he's coming off that fresh knockout of Maciej Sulecki, and takes on the winner of that Shishkin-Skol fight. So very intriguing as well. That fight's taking place out in Germany. I think the Zone's going to be just picked up the rights to that fight as well. And then Tim Tszyu and Bakhram Murtazaliev, PBC. It should be on Amazon, and that's going to shake up the waters. Everybody's expecting Tim Tszyu to pull this off. I don't think it's going to be as easy of a task as everybody's making it out to be. But if Tim Tszyu, who's expected to win this fight tonight and become the newly crowned IBF champ, he's going to mix up everything and have added leverage to his already standing name, to his already popular name within that division, and now have added leverage in negotiations against either Terence Crawford or Jermell Charlo, should he return, which all signs are pointing to him returning soon, the former undisputed champ at that division, and including a rematch with Sebastian Fundora if his negotiations fall through between him and Spence, which is being named for September. So that would really make it an intriguing one. And remember, one more thing, Tim Tszyu and Virgil Ortiz were supposed to fight, and Tim Tszyu ends up pulling out of the fight, and that ended up because of injury, that ended up elevating Serhii Bohachuk to fight Virgil Ortiz. That was supposed to be Tim Tszyu and Virgil Ortiz fighting on the Riyadh season big event. So that ended up derailing that. Virgil Ortiz got pulled from that Riyadh event, the Terence Crawford Madrimov, and ended up headlining his own event several weeks later, I think even a week later, August 10th, out in Vegas, and that ended up basically pinning him in what many are considering the fight of the year between him and Serhii Bohachuk, which was an amazing, amazing showing between those two. So the 154-pound division in full representation tonight with a major title on the line. I want to hear from you guys to see how you guys see it or how you guys are calling it. And again, thank you guys for tuning in, and plenty more episodes coming your way, plenty more boxing to talk about. And especially here's two episodes between the William Skol Shishkin and the Tim Tszyu Murtazaliev recap episodes where we're going to continue talking about this. And after tonight, we'll see how everything plays out. And it's only going to end up generating more dialogue within the landscape of these two divisions as they currently stand. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. And from afar, I will cheers with you. Salud. Enjoy the fights. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. And I'll catch you guys on the recap episodes. Take care.